Greetings and welcome to Sport101, the show that discusses sport for beyond the X's and O's. Here we like to expand our conversation of sports and include the history, past, present, as well as things in the making. We also look at the game from a people, places, and cultural perspective. I'm your host, Jamar Harp. Be sure to follow me on social media, on Twitter at Coach_Harp412, and on Facebook under the name Jamar Harp. Please make sure you get social with Sports 101 and the litany of other shows on SportsZone Chicago while following SportsZone Chicago as well on social media. You can find SportsZone Chicago on Twitter at SportsZoneCHI, Facebook at SportsZone Chicago, and Instagram at SportsZone Chicago. Remember, SportsZone Chicago is a sports talk app. You can watch up and listen to my show, Sport 101, as again, all the other shows as well. You can keep up breaking sports news. If you miss something, don't worry about it. Go to the YouTube channel, search Sports Zone Chicago. But more importantly, we want everyone to download the Sports Zone Chicago app. The Sports Zone Chicago app can be found in the iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon stores. This week, we'll be talking about we choose to play here for the culture, nationalism on a micro and macro level. So let's backtrack a little bit. Everyone knows about the rash of uh, executions by police towards African men in the last few years. Well, recently, George Floyd, after his murder, galvanized a lot of African Americans and the entire nation. Um, I think one part of doing that was number one, seeing his execution, on camera, the whole "I can't breathe" situation, and a relationship with Stephen Jackson, excuse me. So a lot of athletes kind of took to this and took up on this cause again because Stephen Jackson, um, that was his brother, and his follow up after the execution and what Stephen Jackson did in the community. So a lot of athletes galvanized behind this cause. Um, at that point, we began to see professional and amateur athletes use the phrase for the culture. And what they were trying to mean is they want to show for their communities that they support them outside of the playing arena. So you will start to see pro athletes move into the culture. You will also see them give back and support historically black colleges and universities as well. This first picture right here that we're going to talk about, we're going to go over the definitions of patriotism and nationalism. So if you can look on the screen, you'll see patriotism is defined by the love someone feels for their country, which is based on the idea that its country itself is good, upstanding, um, does great things. Again, the nationalism definition is love and pride in one's country. So when we look at these on both a micro and macro level, we can get different examples, especially in athletics. So how is this demonstrated in athletics? Well, we can look at these pictures right here where we see Chris Paul. Last year he did a effort in wearing gear from historically black colleges and universities in the playoffs, as well as he did this in the bubble as well, just to gain exposure. Um, this is him with a North Carolina Central sweater on, and right here he's supporting a Southern University. Um, Moving forward, we also have Paul, who was in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and he worked. Well, he's not yet, but most likely he will be. But he's recently partnered with the Basketball Hall of Fame and developed the Chris Paul HBCU tip-off on November 22nd and 23rd of this year. Um, when he does those tip-offs, again, this is going to be a 14 tournament at a casino in Connecticut. The 2-day doubleheader feature you'll have four HBCUs on the Division II level. So we have Morehouse College, Virginia Union, West Virginia State, as well as Winston-Salem State. Um, all these games are expected to be picked up by a national broadcast network. And Chris Paul stated, again, he's a native of Winston-Salem area and a graduate of Wake Forest, which is also in Winston-Salem. He also has several family members and friends who have attended Winston-Salem State, where he also attends now. He's always been a champion again of HBCUs, again wearing their paraphernalia regularly during games. He's also partnered with the Harvard Business School to bring an entertainment, media, and sports program to North Carolina A&T State University and other HBCUs. Doing this, he's creating a special topics and management course, and what his goal is to develop a pipeline of students. Again, here's some pictures showing Chris Paul. We showed you the North Carolina Central shoes. Now we have some from Albany State, Alabama State, right here. Um, he also raised awareness for the HBCUs through an HBCU sneaker tour, and he launched voting initiatives to encourage students to vote in this past election. Um, Doing more for the community. He's executive produced ESPN Plus's Why Not Us. That was a documentary based on one of his friends, Lavelle Moten, who is the head coach of North Carolina Central University. And basically, the documentary just talked about what the team went through during the pandemic season, having to play games without practicing, etc. Um, there's a lot of HBCU ties in regards to the NBA Hall of Fame. That also they're lit niche because some of these gentlemen have passed away, but their representatives and their trust are still working towards getting more representation. So those include Nate Clifton from Xavier University of Louisiana, Sam Jones from North Carolina Central University and the Boston Celtics, Coach John McClendon, the founder of the Fast Break Offense, who has several coaching stops, Hampton, Tennessee State, and his most well-known stop at North Carolina Central, Earl the Pearl Monroe from Winston-Salem State, Oral Lloyd from West Virginia State, and the great Willis Reed from Grambling State University. Also, ex-Virginia Union University center Ben Wallace will be in this class as well. That's going to be inducted in 2021. So these are some HBCU ties into the Hall of Fame. Going back to the collegiate level, there's a trend of high-profile athletes considering and attending Division I historically black colleges and universities. The Southwestern Athletic Conference is reaping the current benefits of this cultural movement, improving all its sports, and particularly football. Looking at this next photo right here of Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. With the hiring of Coach Prime, athletes are flocking to Jackson State to build a championship team that can beat Power 5 and PWI FCS teams. Now I'm going to show you a quick video. This was a point of contention at the last SWAC Media Day. These are some comments from Shador Sanders, Deion Sanders' son, who is QB1 now, and this is what he thought of the SWAC conference. Now, remind you, he's just a freshman coming in. He's never played a college football game.
It equates to a blowout. You gotta understand, y'all don't really understand, like, it's players that have different caliber of talent that all came to JSU. So it's like, when you compare us to a regular SWAC team, a different SWAC team, the best, like, you gotta understand, we didn't come here because we had to. We came here because we chose to. It's a difference.
All right, so unpacking what Shador said was he's making reference to the influx of BCS or Power 5 talent on Jackson State's team. In the past, there's always been a trend of not only NFL Hall of Famers coaching HBCU football, but also people transferring down from the BCS level to the FCS level. For example, at my undergraduate alma mater, North Carolina Central University. Before I was enrolled there, the head coach there was named Larry Little. Larry Little was a starting all pro guard for the undefeated Miami Dolphins, and that team is going down in infamy as no one else has been able to duplicate their feat. And he was the head coach of North Carolina Central University for quite a long time. And there's so many other examples of people that were head coaches. In regards to people transferring, that has always been the case too, except now the difference at Jackson State is the mass of people that he's getting to transfer or sign out of high school, and that they're coming not because they got in trouble, they had to leave, is because they want to. So that's what Shador was alluding to when he also made comments about he plays against the SEC defense in practice. So again, even though the rest of the SWAC is getting FBS signees and transfers, the amount Jackson State is getting is astonishing. Um, a lot of these young men and the women too. Jackson State, they won the championship in women's basketball, and they signed a couple all-state players that turned down Ole Miss and Mississippi State. But remember, we've always said that the women have led this cause in social justice probably since the beginning of time, and the women athletes are even speaking out more than the men at this time. So you had some young ladies in Mississippi that turned down big colleges to go to Jackson State and play women's basketball. So both the young men as well as the young women are getting more socially conscious, and that's leading them to understanding the political climate of this country. So if we go back to our founders of SportsZone Chicago, Sean Sierra right here, and the great Maya Kai, my sensei, who's got me through the ranks since my first show, which I remember in the summertime, and you know how I've improved. So thank you to these guys. But similar to Sean and Maya, what they're doing is they're creating a platform of their own to showcase their talents in a relaxed social and political atmosphere for their people, and it's going to take off. So again, what Sean and Maya are doing should be applauded. Again, Sports Zone Chicago is the only Black-owned sports radio app and broadcast in the entire world, and we want this to blow up big time. So again, kudos to Sean, Sierra, and Maya Kai for starting this. So what athletes did come to Jackson State for the culture? Let's talk about these great BCS athletes. So we have Shador Sanders, who turned down Florida Atlantic out of high school. Dejon Warren, who was the number one junior college player out of Lackawanna Junior College, who turned down the University of Georgia to sign with Jackson State. Charles Armstrong from Arizona State. Herman Smith from San Diego State. Quardarius Davis. He's a receiver that signed with Kansas, but decided to get out his NLI and come to Jackson State. Katron Evans, who turned down the University of Alabama. Nick Saban, yes. Javante Rucker turned down University of Florida. Baron Hobson turned down Duke. Um, Allah Brown turned down Cincinnati. Jeremiah Brown turned down Florida Atlantic. Brajon Ross turned down Arizona. And Javante Gardner turned down the University of Florida. Now let's get to their transfers. We have Malachi Whiteman, who transferred from the University of Tennessee. James Houston, who transferred from Florida. Antoine Owens, who transferred from Georgia Tech. Niles Gaddy, another transfer from the University of Tennessee. Keith Corbin, who transferred from the University of Houston. Corey Reed from the University of Louisville. Connis Miller from Auburn. Tony Gray from Ole Miss. Aubrey Miller from Missouri. Abdul Malik McClain from Southern Cal, USC. And most likely his brother's going to come as well. If you remember their story, this is the gentleman that applied for the PPP loan that a lot of the USC students were doing, but yet he was ostracized, ended up leaving the team. You have Coach Prime's son, Shiloh Sanders, who transferred from South Carolina. Dylan Spencer also came from Missouri. Isaiah Bolden, who was a defensive back from Florida State. And Javar Selman from Mississippi State. So again, in most cases, these would be older players that got in trouble, but these guys, again, there's a cultural shift in athletics, and again, the phrase is for the culture. So that's what all these gentlemen are doing. You can see from that list I just named of signees and transfers, the SEC, ACC, and the rest of the Power Five players who chose to come to Jackson State again for the culture. Why is this happening? Again, this cultural movement. Also, the name, image, and likeness deal that recently passed that allows athletes to make money regardless of their school notoriety which is leveling the playing field in college athletics. Remember, as athletes demand better social treatment at predominantly white institutions and campuses, and is not received, many are returning back home, proverbially or per se, to historically black colleges and universities to make them tops again. Remember, prior to integration, HBCU athletes dominated their counterparts, which led to the integration of sport. Let's go back and draw a reference from the game when Randall Cunningham's older brother, Sam Bam Cunningham, in USC, went and played Alabama, and which led to Bear Bryant to recruit again from the Southwestern Athletic Conference to SWAC, and then that became the modern SEC. We also saw the example with FAMU and the documentary The U that everyone talks about, where Howard Schnellenberger was the first coach to come in and create the culture at the University of Miami, making the state of Miami, etc. Well, the year prior in 1979, Miami played a away game at Florida A&M University, which was an FCS school. So you had a BCS school going to an FCS school, and Miami got the brakes beat off of them by FAMU. So again, this was way before Coach Prime, but what he's doing is reestablishing a culture that's basically leveling the playing field. So how can we reference that? If we look at this picture right here, these are all the Hall of Famers from Jackson State. This picture is the first gentleman. Obviously, all you Chicago fans know him as Sweetness Walter Payton. The second picture in the middle is Dr. Doom, Robert Brazil, who was Walter Payton's teammate and came out in the same draft. And the gentleman to the far left was also on that same team, but came out in the 1976 draft. The next year, the great offensive lineman for the the Rams, Jackie Slater. So that 1974 team, which all these guys played on, they finished 7-3, which again shows you how good the SWAC was at that time. This picture right here, we can look at. This is before signing day, or draft day, and you see Walter Payton pictured to the far right at the table. He was the overall fourth pick that year in the National Football League draft. You see Dr. Doom sitting in the middle. To the far left. He was the sixth pick that year in the NFL draft. And then rounding out the top 10, we have Gary Big Hands Johnson from Grambling State University, who was also selected eighth that year in the 1975 NFL draft. So not too long ago, 1975, we had three players selected in the top 10 from the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So that's remarkable. The next year, obviously, the great Jackie Slater came out in 1976. He came out in the third round. I don't know how, but obviously, he worked through that and became a Hall of Famer. In 1975, Jackson State actually had 5 players drafted, and that was more than Ole Miss and Mississippi State combined. Again, in 1975, Jackson State had 5 players drafted in the NFL, 2 within the top 10 picks. That was more than Ole Miss and Mississippi State right now. That may be hard to imagine, but again, things move in circular fashion. So now Coach Prime and other coaches are trying to bring that back. So again, we can level the playing field, which is a sports fan, and I know Maya probably would agree with this. It'll just make things more interesting. I remember my time at the University of Iowa, one of the first games of the year will always be against Northern Iowa, and that game will always be close. And one year, Northern Iowa almost won, but UI ran back a punt, like at the end of the game. And Iowa never really runs back punts, but again, that was always a great game. It was local, and you and I would fight real hard because they were the FCS team, and Iowa's, Power 5, Big Ten school. So again, having games like that, I think it'd be great. It'd be great if Jackson State can play Southern Miss and eventually maybe Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Or maybe have what if Alabama State and Alabama had a competitive game? Who knows? But I just think that parity would kind of shake up college football, especially now with the SEC being a super conference, and other people talking about it's going to be a super conference because ACC teams are looking to leave and join as well. In particular, Clemson and possibly Notre Dame. But again, I think that'll bring a lot of parity to the NFL. So the other players that came out from Jackson State in the 1975 draft included another running back named Ricky Young. Now, Ricky Young was kind of Walter Payton's backup, or 1B per se. Ricky Young played 9 years in the NFL, and he led the NFL with 88 receptions in 1978. So again, Walter Payton's teammate led the NFL in receptions in 1978. You may think 88 is not a lot, but remember, at that time, it was more ground and pound. They weren't really throwing the ball like they do now. So that is, astonishing. But no one really talks about Ricky Young. It's just Dr. Doom and Walter Payton. There also was a tight end from Jackson State named Rod Phillips, who signed as an undrafted free agent by the Rams as well. And he converted to running back once he got to the NFL. Though he was converted to running back in the league, it was still very remarkable and nearly an unfathomable feat that, again, Jackson State sent 3 players who played the same position in the NFL in the same year. So that was 3 running backs in the same draft on the same team. You had Ricky Young, Walter Payton, and last Rod Phillips, who played tight end in college, but went and played running back in the NFL. So again, that goes to show you the rich history and culture of Black college sports, and particularly the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and what Deion Sanders is trying to do, i.e. level this playing field. I hope those were great examples on the micro level. And when we come back, we're going to look at some examples on the macro level on how athletes of African descent, and I say African descent because some of these players that we're going to talk about after break are not from America, but again, relate due to the first word before the hyphen. So we're going to take a quick break. Thank you for tuning in with us. I'm Jamar Harp. This is Sports 101. And when we come back, we're going to look at the Florida cultural movement on a macro level within sports, and particularly Olympic basketball and a Nigerian men's basketball team. So we'll be right back. Thank you for tuning in.
Please stop and listen, because this important message may directly apply to you or someone dear to you. Several thousand African American former full-time CPS teachers were unfairly terminated starting in the mid-90s and continuing to the 2000s. If you are one of those many former CPS teachers who was unjustly terminated, or if you are the immediate relative of a now deceased unjustly terminated former CPS teacher, you may qualify to participate in a lawsuit at no upfront cost to you. Please call 773-580-7183 immediately for more information. That's 773-580-7183. Do not delay. Act today, because time is of the essence. That's 773-580-7183. 773-580-7183.
Again, thank you for tuning in us and welcome back. I'm Jamar Harp, and this is Sports 101, that show that discusses sport beyond the X's and O's. Again, we like to talk about the game from a people, places, and cultural perspective, looking through the lens of history in the past, present, as well as things in the making. Please make sure you get social with Sports 101 and a litany of other SportsZone Chicago shows by following SportsZone Chicago on social media. You'll follow SportsZone Chicago on Twitter at SportsZone CHI, Instagram at SportsZone Chicago, and Facebook at SportsZone Chicago. Remember, SportsZone Chicago is a sports talk app. We want everyone to subscribe. You can find our SportsZone Chicago on the YouTube channel by searching SportsZone Chicago, but more importantly, download the app. The app can be found in the iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon stores. Now, as we stated, we're going to talk about for the culture movement on the macro level. How we're going to do this? By using the Nigerian men's basketball team. So before the break, we discussed the definitions of nationalism and patriotism, what nationalism meaning love and pride for one's country, and a patriot is, my country is everything, it's the best, etc., does no wrong. I truly love this. We also talked about for the culture movement on the micro level, using Jackson State as a model and all the BCS talent that's coming in and changing the culture and wanting to make something new or go back to what we talked about, again, as we referenced the SWAC prior to integration and up to 1975 with that historic draft with 5 Jackson State players being drafted. Again, that was more than Ole Miss and Mississippi State combined in 1975. So on the macro level, we'll discuss the Nigerian men's basketball team that's competing in the Olympics right now. To do this, we're going to start this short video to give you a quick synopsis, and then we'll go a little further.
And obviously, if you give Dame Lillard that much room, that's almost a layup for him.
Zach LaVine was beyond ecstatic when Jerry Colangelo called him. So excited to be on this Olympic team, as was Draymond, who misfires there. Draymond and Kevin Durant were both on the team in Rio. Kevin Love played in London. But otherwise, you have 9 new United States members of Team USA.
You know what I love about Zach LaVine? We know that the Chicago Bulls are growing. They're getting better under Billy Donovan. Zach LaVine around this level of high-caliber superstar talent, not just on the court but off court, I think is going to benefit tremendously from this next month.
Epe Udoh playing professionally in China. He has been in the NBA for multiple years.
This level of athlete he's put together out here.
LaVine misses everything. We'll call it a pass, and Draymond Green able to flip it up and in.
50 on this USA team.
That's for sure. Beautiful drive and finish. And
how
right
about
now,
this guy?
I tell you, Caleb Agata, amazing. His hometown is Canberra, Australia.
I think mom and dad are diplomats, right?
For Nigeria, Benajay is certainly capable.
Well, they look the part. I'm impressed with them. Mike Brown's done a really good job.
Zach LaVine. Is it different?
Oh, no way, KD!
So Nigeria earning the respect of the United States, France, then they lose to Serbia. And Greg Popovich is awfully glad to have Jason Tatum one more time.
Exactly. They expected him to be the go-to. Right. Yep.
Idris would grow up to be an incredibly large, skilled, incredibly athletic person at 6'9", 255. But did you see at Kentucky this all-around skill level for him translating to the NBA?
You know, I did. And the reason is John Calipari did a great job with this kid. He taught him to play the game, the effort defensively, the rebounding, the running the floor. And later on in his 1 year at Kentucky, he started to do those things.
Lillard, that's a warm-up 3. And NBA guys, don't miss those.
Well, but a good delivery by Dame Lillard.
So Lillard, the drop pass to Adebayo,
nice.
And then the roll to beat. Vincent Durant respecting that 3. Precious Achiuwa, they'll dare him, and he hits a triple. How about that? And the 3s for Nigeria have been really a story from the first couple minutes of the ball game, and they tied it up.
This is impressive. We knew they would be well coached, but the effort, the energy, the athleticism, and the togetherness has been impressive.
And Okogie, that time Gabe Vincent nearly had that. Get it inside, and Bam Adebayo rings the register plus the foul. Play by Saddiq Bey, and dropping it into Levine to lay it up and in.
Well, that's what Saddiq Bey did at Villanova, and that's what he did this year for Troy Weaver's Pistons, who's here tonight watching Jahlil Okafor, who I believe is injured. That's why we haven't seen Jahlil just yet.
Well, Jahlil had a family member pass away,
Yep.
so he's been away at the services the past week, and Mike didn't want to put him at an injury risk.
Oh, boy, to this point, they are outworking Team USA. This is all.
Okay, so to unpack that video, and thank you so much, Maya. That video was an exhibition game for the Olympic tournament that the United States lost, and it was a very sobering defeat in its first exhibition game for the Olympics, losing Nigeria 90-87. Coming into the game, the Americans had been on a 54-2 win streak in exhibition game since professionals started playing in 1992. And just 9 years ago, they beat Nigeria by 83 points in the London Olympics. So to further unpack the video, first thing you would notice is, again, that Bam Adebayo is of Nigerian descent as well. But similar, going back to the micro examples, he would be an athlete that maybe didn't come to Jackson State and stayed at the Power 5 PWI school. When you look at the Nigerian team, you'll see that is a direct example of Jackson State, but we'll get to that team in a second. So also from the video, you got to notice that it was, I don't understand why people are so surprised at the loss, because everybody on the court is the same. That's like saying some African Americans from Chicago played a game of baseball against some African Americans from, let's say, Wisconsin. They're the same. So when you look at the macro level, everyone got picked up on the west coast of Africa and dropped off at different places, whether it was Brazil, the United States. Sean and Maya have lineage from Latin America and the Caribbean, but some of their ancestors were dropped off there. But we all come from the same place. So it's very confusing to me how people are astonished that Africans from Nigeria beat African Americans in a game when the African Americans came from Nigeria, Ghana, or someone very close to that due to the diaspora from the transatlantic slave trade. So again, why is it so astonishing that it's basically a family reunion basketball tournament or a basketball game? Everyone's related. So why would that be astonishing? So again, we talked about how 9 years ago, Nigeria lost to the United States by 83 points in the London Olympics. So 5 years ago, they cut that down and they lost by 43 points in the exhibition. So why is that? A lot of people from Nigerian descent, due to the heavy influx of players within the United States basketball pool or developmental pyramid, or choosing to play for their home country. A lot of these countries will give them perks. Like, for example, in other countries, if you win a gold medal, you're set for life. It's not a Wheaties box for 60 days and then we forget about you. Like, you're good. You get a paycheck for the rest of your life, free housing, free etc. So these other countries give a lot of notoriety to their medal winners, in particular gold medal winners, because again, the concept of nationalism. Every Olympics, they take a medal count, and it's United States, and now it's the Russian Olympic Committee, which is the new name for, used to be USSR, Russia, etc. So why do they take this medal count? Because they're trying to broadcast the nationalism aspect, or that love and pride for one's country through sports, and my nation is better than yours. This past, and also due to social media and the internet, soccer is the biggest game played in Africa, and particularly Nigeria. So after that, you will have football. There's already a Nigerian American football sort of association due to the likes of Christian Okoye um, and a lot of great other Nigerian or Nigerian Americans that played in the NFL. Namdi Asamoah, um, a lot of great defensive linemen of Nigerian descent. So they started a Nigerian American Football Association to help funnel more people from Nigeria to collegiate colleges in America as well as the NFL. Um, then the social media brought along people watching the and one movement and street ball. So before it was just you want to mimic your cousins in America and North America through the language, their dress, and their music. Now with social media, they start to mimic their style of play in basketball. So remember, if we're off in the same place. Remember, big family reunion. It's not a shock. It shouldn't be if Nigeria beats, America. So getting back to the game, Nigeria made 20 of 42 3-pointers, and they passed his way through Team USA rotation with 21 assists. So that's almost 57% something from the 3-point line. That's great. Our next picture right here is guard Gabe Vincent. Now, Gabe Vincent, he plays for the Miami Heat, but however, when he plays for the Nigerian national team, he goes by Gabe Namdi. So in this game, Gabe Vincent made 6 of 8 3-pointers and finished with 21 points. We also have Caleb Agada, who plays in the Israeli National League and is set to play in the Summer League with the Denver Nuggets. He had 17 points off the bench. The head coach, Mike Brown, who was the former head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers and current Golden State Warriors assistant, stated it was an exhibition at the end of the day. It doesn't mean much in the standings, but he also stated and followed up with that, saying it was a good win for us. I don't think any African team is able to beat USA basketball in the past. But again, why would that be surprising? Because 99% of the players from USA basketball come from West Africa, the same region where these countries are located. So how is this a macro example of nationalism? Again, we talked about the head coach, Mike Brown, never been in Nigeria before, not a Nigerian citizen. But again, knowing politics as well as social politics, they wanted to hire a African American coach that they said was getting disenfranchised in America. So they offered Mike Brown the option to be the head coach of the Nigerian men's national team, and he took it. So that'll be a macro example of nationalism taking this job, because it's love and pride in one's continent, which is bigger than the country, because we all know that the continent of Africa, you could put the United States, the continent of the United States within it about 3.5 times. That's how large it is. Also, the Nigerian Basketball Federation did its best to get the top players of Nigerian descent, regardless if they were born in Nigeria or throughout the diaspora. Now, this topic has been mimicked from soccer programs, not only in Africa, but also in Europe. Previous shows, we talked about how, in particularly France, using its colonial powers with the Afro-Franco linguistic countries in West Africa, and coaches players for them to build a super team in France, which they do call a black team. Also, to attract American-born Nigerian players, they had their Olympic training camp in Las Vegas and Oakland, California. Raleigh, North Carolina native Stan Okoye, who played 8 years for the Nigerian men's national team, including he was a member of the 2016 team at the Rio Games. He was key on the court with a putback dunk over the head of Golden State Warriors Draymond Green. He stated whenever they play a team from Africa, they usually dominate Africa. But during this new era of Nigerian basketball, where a lot of players are coming from and playing with the national team, coming from America and playing with the Nigerian national team, representing their home country, we've been able to take that over, Okoye said. So again, similar to soccer, how everyone's leaving Africa going to France. If they continue to do this and leave America and go to Nigeria, these teams will get stronger. Not only Nigeria, but Ghana, Senegal, Ivory Coast, etc. But again, that's where we originally come from. We were dropped off in all the places that we live right now. Remember, most of the team was born and raised in the United States, yet they claim Nigeria as their country due to the heritage of their parents. There are many Nigerians that I know personally who play basketball in the NCAA overseas as well as the NBA. So, with that being said, the game could be pioneered from our country, grown in Africa. If the resources were put there and the same opportunities were given like we have here in the United States, Okoye said. Having grown up in North Carolina to Nigerian parents, Okoye values the deeper connections he had formed with his roots and family by representing the African nation where his parents was born instead of fighting to go through the United States basketball pyramid. Now, I know a lot of people will say, yes, they're doing this because they're lower level American players. However, the same thing happened, and we go back to our micro example with historically black college football, particularly in the MEAC and SWAC, where there was always a slow trickle of transfers from the BCS. And then with Coach Prime coming in, as well as other coaches, with Coach Prime really starting the movement, you see a larger influx coming. And this, as Shador said, they're coming because they want to. They didn't get in trouble, and they don't have to, so they don't have to transfer. They want to. Okoye also explained something else. He said that all the players that were American born, and most of them have never been in Nigeria before, being a member of this team, and didn't know the language. So what Nigeria did was they had cultural classes. So just like when you go to college and you go on a recruiting trip, they may teach you the fight song, teach you things about the culture, similar to what Coach Prime is doing at Jackson State. They just got a new equipment trailer, and all three Hall of Famers are on there. So he teaches the players about Walter Payton, Walter Brazil, and as well as Jackie Slater. He talks to them about the 1970s, which was the last great era of historically black college football, and explains the tradition that they come from. So on a macro level, the Nigerian Basketball Association is doing the same thing. Okoye explained, we all learned the Nigerian national anthem and didn't know it before then. The words in the anthem meant so much more to them to the words of the United States national anthem, which basically describes the bombing in the Baltimore Harbor, as well as killing the first Marines, the merchant Marines, or the indigenous Africans that had escaped chattel slavery and were working with the British to help burn down different buildings within Washington, D.C. So the second stanza of the song talks about killing these people. That's why the song is of great contention within the African community in the United States. So he basically stated that the words in the Nigerian national anthem, they meant so much to them. He even pointed out one phrase, to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. He said it's very different from the American national anthem because of what I know has been founded upon. To be able to represent my parents' country, my country, as well as my continent was a very special thing. So this is Okoye invoking references of culture and pride, which again is developing a sense of nationalism for Nigeria, even though he was born and raised in Raleigh, North Carolina. So similar to the students at Jackson State, the entire team could have played for another country, yet chose to play for Nigeria. What am I talking about? Let's look at this and unpack this Nigerian men's Olympic basketball team. So this picture right here is a picture of some members of the Nigerian men's basketball team, and we're going to break it down and tell you where they're from. So you got Keze Okpala, who played basketball at Stanford and was born in the United States. Caleb Agada, who attended Ottawa University in Canada and is Nigerian born. Ekpe Udo, who played at Michigan and was also born in the United States. Chimize Metsu, who played at Southern Cal and was born in the United States. Obi Emigano from Western Illinois, who was Nigerian born. Miye Onu from Yale, who was also born in the United States. Chicago's own Jaleel Okafor, who played at Duke and was born in the United States. Josh Okoji, who played at Georgia Tech. He was Nigerian born. However, his parents moved to the United States when he was about 2. So he doesn't remember Nigeria, even though he was born there. So he was raised in the United States. We have Gabe Vincent from UC Santa Barbara, who was also born in the United States. Jordan Inoa from Louisville, who was also born in the United States. Ike Unamu from UNLV, also born in the United States. And Precious Achua from Memphis, who's Nigerian born. This picture right here is of head coach Mike Brown. Again, Mike Brown was a former head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. He was a head coach and one of LeBron James' stint there. He's now assistant coach at Golden State and the head coach of the Nigerian men's basketball team. Prior to this, a lot of the teams in Africa will reach to Europe for their players. This is categorized in the movie Cool Runnings, where you had a German trying to teach the Jamaican bobsled team, and they had the great instance where they brought their culture, feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, get on up this bobsled time, Cool Runnings instead of the start the Germans did with the 9-9-9. So that's just a quick example of what used to happen. But now, again, with the social media, and again, these countries are pandering in some senses to get Africans from the diaspora to move back. Nigeria has a program. Ghana has a program. Senegal built a statue of a black male, a black woman, and a black child pointing to the ocean. It's like the African Statue of Liberty saying, "Come home." And then a year and a half ago marked the last year of the year return, where it was a whole year set for people to repatriate back to the motherland. So again, about Coach Brown, for the moment he was appointed head coach, Coach Brown's objective with the Nigerian men's basketball team was clear: become the first African basketball team to win an Olympic gold medal. And again, I don't see why that would be astonishing, because if the top athletes in basketball come from the NBA and those athletes are from West African descent, then a team that plays basketball and practices and learns the game in West Africa shouldn't be surprising. On the Olympic medal side, one of Brown's goals is develop basketball in Nigeria as well. And despite the failings which is costing teams so dearly at the games, the federation was lacking for funds. So when they first got there, only Coach Brown had his room, so he had to get people rooms and stuff. When they got there, there's a lot of policies in Tokyo now in regards to how they sleep. I know a lot of people talked about the quote-unquote foldable beds they have for the athletes to prevent cohabitation with the opposite sex. So there was a lot of things going on that the Nigerian Federation had to handle outside of basketball. But Brown is still unwavering in his determination to help grow the game long term in Africa. Brown stated, "I love being a part of Nigerian basketball, and I truly hope the people of Nigeria continue to accept me the way they have, because I do think that we can build something special, because hurdles like this are going to come up, but hopefully we can keep trying to find ways to get around them," Brown said. He also stated, "I enjoy this, and I'm looking forward to the day that we are on top." So again, this is Coach Mike Brown saying we, meaning is Nigeria on a micro level and Africa on a macro level, where they're on top in basketball. Why is that? Because a lot of people are saying, well, we're doing all this and gaining notoriety for countries where we're executed in, where police are called on us for various reasons, and we don't have the same liberties as other people in that country. So there was obviously, with this game, there was a lot of backlash within the American sports culture to the Nigerian team. One of the biggest instigators of this backlash is in this video that we'll watch right here, then unpack.
Roster. There's no excuse to lose to Nigeria. Some dude, Gabe Namdi, who goes by Gabe Vincent for the Miami Heat, Caleb Agada, Namu, or however the hell you pronounce his name. You give up 60 points on threes? Excuse me. You can do better than that. A star and you need an interpreter, that might have something to do, not everything, because there's a lot of things that go into it, but that might have something to do with your inability to ingratiate yourself with that young demographic to attract them to the sport.
All I was saying is that when you're a superstar, if you can speak the English language, then guess what? That's going to make it that much easier and less challenging to promote the sport. That's all I was saying about anybody. Later.
Again, thank you so much, Maya. So unpacking that video, basically, Stephen A was irate that the United States lost to an African basketball team, even though, again, that's where we came from, and the players had to remind him of that. He also made fun of their names, which I don't understand why you would do that, especially that kind of makes you look weak, immature, and not knowledgeable, because, again, you're basically making fun of yourself. So when we looked at the players' comments that responded on Twitter, put some respect on our name. We worked hard for this. And, again, all these players almost all the team is American born, but they just have Nigerian names due to their parents knowing where they came from. So Stephen A. Smith laughed and mocked out their names, their culture. The player said, "You're making over 200 Nigerian citizens upset by mocking their country and their names, their language, etc." One player even said, if you remember seeing this, how can you make fun of the motherland where you come from? And I think that was very big, because that's like, for example, if Sean or Maya talk to somebody from Dominican or Puerto Rico or anywhere in Latin America that their heritage comes from, where they were dropped off and say, well, I'm from Chicago and I'm more Puerto Rican or Dominican than you, and they're all from the same place. So again, that's very frustrating to have someone on TV in such a prominent position to be able to make such statements. In any other culture or ethnic group, you don't see that. You won't see Jewish people talk like that. Italian people talk like that to other Italians, Mexican and Mexican Americans. Even with the loss in soccer recently, the Mexican national team is recruiting more Mexican Americans that were born in born in America to come play for Mexico. So again, there's everyone is saying that we're one except Stephen A. Smith. So again, the players clapped back with their responses, as I just stated. And again, the main one was saying this is your homeland as well. What's also is astonishing is the solidarity of these players, who again were mostly born in the United States, and it's showing the nationalism tide switch, because they're speaking out against someone that looks like them in a national market, saying put some respect on Africa, put some respect on Nigeria, put some respect on where your ancestors came from. Refuting Stephen A. also shows people the pride in their motherland and willingness to make it better. On a quick note, talking about the best Nigerian basketball players of all time, we have Akeem Olajuwon, who ultimately ended up playing for the United States team, and of course Giannis Antetokounmpo. A lot of people don't know about Giannis is his. Everyone knows that his parents left Nigeria and moved to Greece. But what most people don't know is he changed his last name to make it look more Greek. So again, what if in closing, how do we get more to think like Coach Prime, Coach Brown, and Nigerian basketball team? How do we get more of our athletes to think that way? Will situations like this prompt more learning and affection, i.e., claiming the continent of your lineage or the West African country of your parents' lineage proudly? Will sports change if the majority who dominate in the U.S. and the diaspora from West Africa? So if we look at the Olympics, um, Italy had an Afro-Italian win the 100 meters. So many other countries have people of African descent representing them in sports. But what if they play for their home countries? What if on a Nigerian team right now you had Bam Adebayo and Giannis Antetokounmpo? Bam Adebayo is currently playing for the United States, and Giannis, he's taking a break after the finals, but he will represent Greece. So what if all of them were playing for Nigeria right now? What if everyone in the NFL was playing for Ghana or Nigeria in all these sports? Will Africa field teams to beat their cousins across the globe? I don't know, but again, with this movement, this cultural movement, all these Nigerian Americans going back, joining the Nigerian team, learning the national anthem, learning their culture, learning their language is invoking something in them, and this movement is just going to swell. So again, hopefully we were able to demonstrate tonight these examples of micro and macro nationalism towards West Africa, and hopefully we can build upon this on a micro level within this country, so we can get some great matchups. And like I said, I know Maya and Sean would love to talk on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 Eastern, 9 Central on Sean and Maya in the morning. Please check that show out about a FCS team, HBCU beating the BCS team. So again, thank you for tuning in this week's episode of Sports 101. I'm your host, Jamar Harp. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Coach_Harp412 and Facebook, Jamar Harp. Make sure you get social with Sports 101 and the litany of other SportsZone Chicago shows by following SportsZone Chicago on Twitter at SportsZone CHI, Facebook at SportsZone Chicago, and Instagram at SportsZone Chicago. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, search SportsZone Chicago, but more importantly, download the SportsZone Chicago app. The SportsZone Chicago app can be found in the iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon stores. I will see you next week at our normally scheduled time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. And this is Jamar Harp signing out with this week's episode of Sports 101, and I'm gone.